Hi my dear friends of YouTube. In this video I want to teach you how to make this beautiful summer blouse. It's a combination of net and hairpin lace and look amazing. And I want to show you a close-up, that way you see the stitches. That's the net. And then transition to the hairpin lace. And again to the net, hairpin lace, and then net. I hope you guys like it and give it a try. And here is the list of material you're gonna need to make this beautiful blouse. Something that I wanted to mention before I give you the list of material is that this blouse is like size large, almost an extra large. It's a little big on me and I'm a size large. And if I wanted this blouse to fit me better, a little more tighter, I should have done 64 loops for my hairpin lace and 64 netted stitch. So if you want this a little bit bigger than this one, I recommend to add 4 loops at the hairpin lace and 4 stitch at the net. To make this lavender summer blouse, I start giving name to some of my blouses because sometimes I get asked questions and I don't know to which blouse they refer to. And this one, the color of the yarn is lavender, and so that's why the name. This one is Bernat Handicrafter cotton. It have 42.5 grams or 62 meters. It's medium 4, the color lavender, and you're gonna need 6 of this ball of yarn. I'm gonna use a crochet hook, netting needle, and hairpin lace loom for this particular piece. The crochet hook is 3.5 millimeters, the netting needle 7 millimeters, and the loom is open to 10 centimeters. You're gonna need tapestry needle and scissors. And if you want to make this blouse bigger, probably you will need more yarn, and a smaller probably less. But for this particular size, you will need 6 balls of yarn. Now we're gonna start working with our hairpin lace loom. We had to make 4 strips, hairpin lace of 70 loops on each side. So it's 4 of them, 70 and 70 in each side. They have to be those 4 exactly the same. And then you have to do 2 more of 20 loops on each side. So this blouse is going to be a size large, a little loose on me, but a size large. And is multiple of 2 the stitch. So if you want to make this blouse bigger, you have to make sure that the amount of stitch that you put on your loom is multiple of 2, or if you want it smaller, the amount of stitch that you take from the loom, from the 70, is multiple of 2. For example, you take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but you don't can take 3, 5, 7, because you don't want to have the amount of loops that you need for when you start working with the knitted part, because the knitted part, the stitch is multiple of 2. So you're gonna start creating your 4 strips of 70. So you have to make sure that you leave a tail long enough in here, because we're gonna use the tail as we work with the piece. So I'm gonna secure my yarn here. Make sure that it's in the center of the loom. And I'm gonna do another knot. And if you've never done hairpin lace, I have a video already on my channel that I explain with more detail how to do hairpin lace. So this one is just a quick review. So you're gonna wrap your yarn around the post, bring it to the back, and you're gonna pass your hook through those 2 loops, and you're gonna chain 1, and now you're gonna wrap those 2 strands of yarn and do a single crochet. Now you're gonna flip your loom and wrap the yarn on the post, and you're gonna pass it through these 2 loops, and you're gonna do a single crochet. You just doing a single crochet on the center of the piece. So you're gonna work your hairpin lace strip until you have 70 on each side. So I'll meet you here when I have my 4 of 70 and 2 of 20. Something that I wanted to mention before I continue working off camera is that when you finish each strips, you're gonna chain 1 to finish, and you're gonna cut the tail a little bit long because you're gonna use those tail later, and that is on each strips you have to have a long tail in the beginning and in the end. Here I have one of the strips of 70 loops on each side. So now we're gonna cast it on our netting needle. So it's very easy. You'll see how easy it is. You're gonna grab your netting needle and you're gonna pass your loops, and just like that you cast on your stitches. You see how easy? You just have to make sure that you pass through every single one. You don't want to leave one behind. Like that. So I'll meet you here when I have all my loops on the needle. Here I have my 70 stitches cast on my needle, and that's the cast on. So you're gonna turn your work around. I'm gonna put it here to grab the working yarn, and I'm gonna do a slip knot. And I'm gonna put it here on the needle. So don't matter if some of these come out of the needle, because what you do, for example, if they come like that, what you do is as you work, you place them back. You see? So we're gonna do 1 row of purls. So this first row gonna be purl. So only in this one you're gonna pass it through these 2 loops. This is just to secure our working yarn. So we're gonna start with purls, those 2, and for now on you only gonna purl 1. So we want to have at the end 70 stitches. You see, only 1, and I know it's nice and loose like that, but they will take their shape once you finish. You'll see. Like that. You're going to continue doing this row of purl. So I'm going to continue off camera, and make sure that you have your 70 stitches. It's very important that you have your same amount of loops you want stitches. And just purl like this. Once you finish that row of purl, it will look like this in the back, and you turn your work around and your stitches are nice and secure. You see, you just pull it like this and they're nice and secure like this. So now that counts as row number 1 of 13, and you need to keep track, write in a piece of paper, of the amount of row you're gonna do in this piece, because you want to create the second piece exactly the same to match every stitch. So for mine, I'm gonna do that is row number 1. I'm gonna do 11 more row of the fantasy stitch, and row number, that will be 12 row with this one, and row number 13 will be another row of purls. And after I do the row of purl, we're gonna attach this piece that we're gonna do now to the other strip of hairpin lace. That will be the 2 for the front. So it's very easy. You just have to follow exactly my instruction. This is a very easy stitch to do. So it's a repetition. So you always go to a start. You're gonna start with a purl, always. So now you're gonna do yarn over and 2 together. You always gonna start like that every single row. So after that you're gonna do yarn over and 2 together, and that's it. That's the stitch. Yarn over and 2 together for the entire fantasy stitch. Yarn over and 2 together. You always have to make sure that when you do the yarn over, you do the 2 together next, because if you do the yarn over and you don't grab the 2 together, you are increasing 1 stitch, so you'll end up with more stitches. And if you do the 2 together and you don't do the yarn over, you are decreasing. So you always have to make sure that before you do the 2 together, you have a yarn over. Otherwise the stitch don't gonna work, and then you have to undo that piece. Yarn over and 2 together. Yarn over and 2 together. So you're gonna continue doing this all the way to the end, the yarn over and 2 together, and you're gonna finish only in this row with a yarn over and 1 purl. And all this is done on purl stitch. So here at the end, you're gonna finish with a yarn over and a purl, only in the first row. The next row will be, again, you start with 1 purl, yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, 2 together, all the way to the end. And at the end of the next row, you're gonna finish with yarn over and 2 together for that row on. That will be row number 3. But row number 2 are the motifs, okay, of this fantasy stitch. So you're gonna continue working this all the way to the end, and I will show you next row. Here I'm doing my last 2 together, leaving 1. So yarn over and 1 purl, and like that you finish row number 2 or row 1 of the fantasy stitch. You're going to turn your work around, and again you're going to start with your purl. You always start with 1 purl and a yarn over. So one purl, yarn over, and 2 together. And now you will see that the 2 together, your yarn over from the row before, it will be on the front. You see, that's the yarn over. So you're going to pass it through there and the next stitch like this, and you do your purl, the 2 together, yarn over, and again you see 2 together. So if you see that you're missing a yarn over, you will see it there, you see, in the front. So for example, if you see it like this, for example, you miss a yarn over and you see a stitch like that, you just grab it and place it on your needle, and then you're adding that stitch you're missing. But only the yarn over is in front of the purl here. Okay, so that's one of my advice if you miss a yarn over. But you only have to have the yarn over on the front, the first one. You see, when we do the 2 together, that's the purl that is behind the yarn over. Okay, so yarn over again, you see, 2 together. And this row you're going to finish with a yarn over and 2 together. So I'll meet you at the end of this row. I will show you one more time, and from there you can do it by yourself because it's nice and easy. Here I'm going to finish this row, and it's yarn over, and you see the last 2 together. And for now on, you're always going to finish with 2 together. And always you're going to start with 1 purl. You turn your work around, and you finish row number 3. Now you're going to row number 4. Let me mark that I did row number 3 to keep account. So again, you're going to start with 1 purl, yarn over, and again you see the long stitch is in front, 2 together, yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, You're going to continue working this until you have done 12 rows in total. So row number 13 will be a row of purl. So I'll meet you here for the row of purl. And the row of purl has to be in the wrong side of the piece. This is the right side. So the purl had to be on the wrong side. In the same side that you did that row of purl here in the back. You'll see that. You see? That's the row of purl. And here is nice and flat. So I'll meet you when I get to the row number 12. And then row number 13 I will show you how to finish row number 12, and this is what the piece will look like with a nice open stitch, nice and fresh for the summer. So now I'm gonna grab the yarn I'm working with, and this row number 13, you see, gonna be work on the wrong side of the piece. So you're gonna do this row of purl. So you're gonna purl here. You're gonna purl every stitch. That was the yarn over, so you're gonna do a purl there. You're gonna pass it through here, yarn over, and you're gonna do your purl. You see? Your next purl. Again, you'll see like that. You pass it through here, and you're gonna purl that long stitch like that. You're going to continue doing this all the way to the end. So after this, we're going to attach this piece to the next hairpin lace. What happens if you have one extra stitch? Like me, somehow I have 71. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these two together, not the last two. These two, because I don't want these to be, yes, so I do those two together and I will end up with my 70. What happens if you have one stitch missing, that you have 69, not 70? So what you do is you go to the stitch here in the bottom, you put it up on your needle, and then you purl that one as a regular stitch. Okay, but that's not my case. My case was that I have an extra stitch. Once you finish the row of purl, it will look like this. And now we're gonna attach this piece to this one, very easy, with the crochet hook. Now with the crochet hook, we're gonna grab the first loop and here from the netting needle, and we're gonna grab the first loop from the hairpin lace strap, and we're gonna pass that loop inside the one from the netting needle. This one is a little loose, but later on we'll fix that. So now you're gonna grab the one from the netting needle, the next one, and you're gonna pass that one through the loop of the hairpin lace. We're going to be passing it in a zigzag. Okay, so now you're going to grab the next one of the hairpin lace, and you have to make sure that's the next one, not leaving anything in between. So you're going to grab the next one at this one from here, and the next one from the hairpin lace, and the next one from here. You have to make sure that you work in a flat surface when you're doing this. I really recommend that, because you have to grab the one that you're supposed to, like this. It will be like this, because as you work you are creating, it's like a little braid in here. Right now you don't see it. Let me hold this with my hand because the stitches are loose, but once you finish they will, you pull and they will get into places. Okay, so you have to make sure that you grab every single one from here, because imagine that you done a piece here or almost to the end and you realize that you have extra stitches in here, and you look and all the way here you have a loose loop. So you'll have to undo all that and come back here and do that loop. So you have to make sure that you have this open like this, separated, and you can see which is the next one, okay? So you're gonna do this all the way to the end. Remember, you have 70 here and 70 here, so it's one of each side. Once you finish, you will have one loop on your hook, and now the tail that you left on the little rib of the hairpin lace, you're gonna grab that tail and you're gonna pass it through that loop, you know, the last loop that you have there, and you're gonna secure that loop, and you're gonna pull this long like that. That way you have that strand of yarn the same length of the hairpin lace, and you're gonna sew that strand of yarn through the inside here at the little rib or a spine of the hairpin lace, and you'll secure that in there, and you have to make sure that it's the same length as these loops. The same on the other side, but a little different, because here what you have is the tail from the netting that you've been doing, the one attached to the ball of yarn. You're gonna cut the tail, and you're gonna sew that tail in the center here again at the hairpin lace. You're gonna sew here and make sure it's that the same length as the stitch of the hairpin lace, and you'll have your piece nice and secure there as well. And you have to pull this a little bit like this to make sure that they stretch at the same width as this. And look how nice that looks so far. When you finish securing those two tails, we're going to start all over again, repeating these strips of net on here. Okay, so this one was the first one, and we're going to do what we did here but on top of this one. You see, here is where we attach the net to the hairpin lace. So again, we're going to repeat that, and you have to make sure that this is the right side, and then from the right side, from the front here, you're going to put your needle, and then when you turn your work around to do the row of purl, it will be in the wrong side. So you have to make sure that that's like that. So you're going to pass it through your 70 loops again. Make sure that you don't leave any behind. So we're going to do the same repetition again. So you're going to continue doing this all the way to the end. As you place all your loops on your needle and turn it around, this is the wrong side of the piece. So I'm going to repeat exactly the same as I did here. I'm going to create a slip knot, leaving a tail. And I'm going to place in here on the front. It's a little bit too loose, I don't want it too loose. So I'm gonna purl this row. I'm gonna continue purl one at a time. So you see, it's very easy. It looks very loose, but once you finish this row, again, it will look right when you turn it to the right side. So I'll meet you here at the end of this row. Once you have your 70 stitches done, you're going to start again with the same fantasy stitch that we did here. So you're going to start with one purl, yarn over, and two together. Yarn over and two together. You're gonna do that stitch for 22 row, and then I will meet you here when I'm done my 22 row, and in row number 23 we're gonna do again the row of purl. So what we're doing now is creating a bigger size for the chest part. Okay, so we are making from a small to big. So here, secure my, you see this one I have 13 row, the next one will be 23, and this one here will have from 7 to 8 row, the one the smaller one that we're gonna do here for the bottom part. So I'll meet you here when I'm done my 22 row at the same stitch that we done here, this beautiful fantasy stitch. Here I did my fantasy stitch for the top, and I did 22 rows. Now row number 23 will be a row of purl. That will be like row number 13 that I did here. That was a row of purl. And after we do that row of purl, we're gonna create or piece like that for the shoulder. That is these two of 20 that I have here, one for each shoulder, and create the front or the back of the piece because both are the same. So that's what we're gonna do now. Now we're gonna do row number 23, and it's the row of purl. And here was the one that we did yarn over. So you pass it through here and you do your purl. And remember, you have to count your stitches, that you have to have 70 stitches at the end. We start with 70 and we finish with 70. It will look like this. So you're gonna continue working your purl till the end of this row. Once you finish doing your row of purl, we're gonna start attaching these two pieces together, exactly the same as we attach this one here. Okay, so you have to be very careful grabbing this one from the net because you don't want to lose a stitch. So you're gonna grab the first one from here, from the netting needle, and you're gonna grab the first loop from the hairpin lace strap. So you pass it through, hold the tail a little bit because I know the first one gonna try to get long because this is loose. So you're gonna grab then the one from the netting needle, and you have to be very careful because you don't want to let go to any of these stitches, because and then you'll lose your piece and you have to start all over again. So I recommend to get a flat surface where you can see which is the next at this one that you have to grab, because if you miss one and then you have to undo your piece. So you have to be very careful when you do this part here. So you're gonna come here, grab the next one, and go to the next one, and like that you're gonna continue until you finish working all your hairpin lace. And once you finish there, I will show you how to work the center part, that will be the color, and then how to start the other one. Here I finished passing back and forth the 20 loops of my hairpin lace and the 20 stitches from my netting piece. So now I have to work in the center of the piece, that will be the color, and then you're gonna be working in the center and leaving 20 stitches in the netting needle. So it's very easy, and instead of passing back and forth from one piece to the other, what you're gonna do is grab the next netting stitch and pass it under the loop that you have already on your crochet hook, like that. See, you have two here, and you pass the one in the back and tap at the one on the front, like that. And you're gonna continue doing this until you have 20 left on your netting needle. Nice and easy. This is how the finishing touches of the color will look like, really nice. So now I'm gonna show you how to attach this one to the other. I have my 20 left on my netting needle, and I have this loop ready to go. So we're gonna do exactly the same that we did in the other side. So the only thing that we start with this one on here, but this one's already on my needle and my crochet hook, sorry. So I'm gonna grab the first loop from the hairpin lace and pass it through this one. And I'm going to grab this one from the needle and pass it through this one. Like that in a zigzag. We're doing exactly the same that we did on the other side. So I'm repeating myself again, but I cannot stress out this enough. Please work hairpin lace in a flat surface, because you don't want to do a huge piece and realize that you left some loops behind. When you finish your stitch, you have some extra. It's not that you make extra, it's that you made a mistake along the way. So you're going to continue working like this all the way to the end. Here I finished attaching my hairpin lace to the netted piece, and I have one loop left. So we had to secure that loop, and that's why we have this long tail from the hairpin lace piece. That way you're going to pass it through here. Pass it the other way, inside out, like that. That way it look better. And with your tapestry needle, you're gonna sew this and make sure it's the same length as the other pieces. You're gonna sew this in the little rib here, or little spine. It's like a little spine here. You're gonna sew with your tapestry needle here and the inside, and you have to make sure that they are the same length. And that last stitch is very secure there. So in the other side here, I still have my ball of yarn attached to the netted part. So we need to secure that tail, and we're gonna cut it long enough that we're gonna bring it here, and again we're gonna sew this piece with our tapestry needle into the center little spine or rib, like that, and that stitch will be very secure. To finish this first piece, I want to do a border for the bottom here, that way I don't leave this loose and I give a little bit more length to the blouse. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cast on 70 stitches on my netting needle, and I'm gonna work 2 rows of purl, and then I'm gonna do 6 rows of the fantasy stitch, just a little bit, and then I will do a row of purl, and when I do that row of purl, I will attach the little strip that I'm gonna work on my netting needle to this hairpin lace strip. So when I attach this little piece that I want to work to this one, it will be like here. You see, like that stitch in here. So you have to make sure when you do that purl row at the end that your piece is on the right side to attach that piece to this one, and the purl and the back, like this. You see, this one don't look the same in here as it look in here. We want all the piece to be on the right side, like here too. So now I'm gonna cast on my 70 stitches, and I will show you how to work the little strip that we want. Now the amount of tail that I need to leave for casting on, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wrap around my yarn 35 times on my needle. Okay, that will be half at the stitch. Once I have my 35, I will pull it out, fold it in half, and I will grab it here, and that will be the amount of tail that you will need to cast on you 70 stitches. Here I have the tail that I need for my casting on. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna wrap the yarn on my finger to create a loop, and that strand of yarn on the back, I'm going to pass it through the loop from the back to the front, pull it through, and like that I created my slip stitch, or my first stitch for my casting on. And it's a slip stitch, because you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. So to cast on, I'm going to work with my 2 needles at the same time, because this stitch is a very loose stitch, and I don't want the beginning of the piece to be a tight fit, you know, like too tight, that you can see obvious that it's too tight on the bottom and then loose on the top. So the same way that you cast on with one, you can cast on with two together. So you grab the two together like this and you pass it through the loop like that, and then you separate your two strands of yarn. This one on this side is the one for the tail, and this one is the one of the ball of yarn. So you're going to separate them here, and you're going to pass it through here and pull through, and you cast on your second stitch like that, and again like this. You're going to continue casting on like this. I know it's a little difficult for those beginners that never done this before. Even for me it's a little tricky because these are very slippery because they are plastic. So you're going to cast on your 70 stitches, and if you find that with the two of them it's too loose, the loops, what you can do is use the second knitting needle, a smaller one. Here I have my 70 stitches. Now I'm going to do a knot here with the tail just to secure that first stitch, but not too tight because you don't want that stitch to be too tight. So now you can remove the second needle. As you remove the second needle, it will look like this, nice and loose. So now you have to do 2 rows of purls. And if you look, your stitches are nice and loose as the one from the piece. So you're going to continue purl all the way to the end of this row. I finished that row of purl. Now I'm going to do my second row of purl. Like that all the way to the end. And these 2 rows of purl don't count as the part of the stitch. Okay, like this, nice and loose. It's a little bit difficult for me to record with these very long needles in front of the camera, so I try my best here. So I'm going to continue with this row of purl. I did a second row of purl. Now we're going to do the fantasy stitch. So we're going to start with the purl. Yarn over, like that, and 2 together. Yarn over, and 2 together. Exactly the same as I showed you before. Yarn over, and 2 together. And like I mentioned before as well, you have to make sure that you do your yarn over and the 2 together, because if you do the yarn over and you don't do the 2 together, you are increasing 1 stitch. And the same if you do the 2 together and you don't do the yarn over, you are decreasing 1 stitch. So you always have to make sure that you do the yarn over before you do the 2 together. Okay, so you're going to continue with this all the way to the end. Here I'm going to finish this row, first row. I'm going to yarn over, two together, yarn over, and the last purl. Turn your work around, and I'm gonna start my second row of the motifs. And like I explained before, you always start with one purl. One purl, yarn over, and again two together. And the two together, you see the long strand there, that is the yarn over. So you're gonna go in between like that and go to the next one, you see, and those are the two together. Yarn over, and again you see the long stitch, two together, and all is on a purl stitch. Yarn over and two together. Like this, you're going to continue this row and the next few rows until you have the desired length that you want for your piece. And then I will meet you here when I want to attach this one to that one, like I showed you before. At the end of the row number 2, you're going to yarn over and do two together. So always after row number 2, you're always going to finish with two together. And you're going to turn your work around and you're going to do a purl, yarn over, two together, yarn over, two together, until you finish with two together. So you're going to work this piece as big as you like. Here I did 7 rows of the motif, and now row number 8 will be a row of purl, exactly the same as I did at the beginning. If by any coincidence you have an extra stitch when you're doing the row of purl, so you have to be counting, you do two together, and that way you have your 70 stitches because you have 70 loops there. Now we're going to do the same process again, attaching this piece to the hairpin lace. So you're going to find your first loop and you're going to grab your first stitch and pass that loop through here. Once you pass that, you're going to pull the tail to make that loop smaller, because remember the tail is there. So you're going to grab the next one here and do exactly the same as we did in the other pieces. You're going to finish this piece and you're going to start working in the next one until it's time to attach them on the shoulder. And then we will have to attach to this one that is already attached in here. We have to attach here to close the two pieces together. So I'm going to work in the other piece, and then when it's time to put them together, I will show you how to do that. Piece. You see? Ready to be attached on the shoulder like we did the last one. So I have this one here that we already did, and I had to make sure it is on the right side, and then I'm gonna place it here like this, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing that we did with this one here. We're gonna do it with this one and here, exactly the same. Okay, so it's very, very easy. It's repetition, repetition. So you're going to grab your first loop in here and you're going to pass it through the first loop on here. Again, you're going to pull that tail because you see how long it gets. And then we're going to grab the next one here. Like this, we're going to continue exactly how we did this part here. So if you don't remember, just rewind a little bit the video and check this out again and do it exactly the same. The only difference that we already had this one attached to this one, but we were working exactly the same. I'm gonna do this off camera. I'm gonna do the part in here, you know, the same part that we did in here. I'm gonna do it in that part. And then after that, we're going to sew the side of the blouse, and we are here. I already sewed together the side of the blouse. Very easy. Don't lose all the tails that you have, because with those tails, you're going to sew some of these pieces. So here is the for the arm. So what I did here, you'll have a tail from one of these hairpin lace left, and you will sew together the little rib or spine at this hairpin lace with this one. You will sew them there, just there, because you want them open here, okay? That way this design is the same. You will have a little tail in one of these netted pieces, and you also stitch there where the hairpin lace and the net begins there, and that will give you the opening for the arm. Here you'll have to grab the strand of yarn, and with the tapestry needle you'll sew here in zigzag, just from here. You're only gonna sew the netted part, okay? Again, in here you'll have one strand of yarn, and you'll sew those two ribs together. They will look like that once you sew them together, you see. And the same here, you will have a tail here, and if it's long enough you will sew here, or you have to have a strand of yarn and sew this part in here, okay? So I'm going to explain in the other side. You see, I have here that strand of yarn from the rib of the hairpin lace. With this one I'm going to sew these two pieces together in here, okay? With my tapestry needle I will sew just there. This one I have a tail here, and with that one I will sew here just these two pieces together, okay? Leaving this open like that, this here. And here I will grab a strand of yarn, and with my tapestry needle I will sew the netted part with this tail that I have here. I had to lose that one because I don't need that one. With this one here I will sew this one here, and then if the last one here, this one, is long enough for you, you will sew these two together, or you grab a different strand of yarn and sew this part. So I'll do that off camera, and I'll show you the end result. Here is the amount of yarn that I have left from my 6 ball of yarn, this one. So these ones are little pieces because they were not enough to do any of this part, so I had to leave those pieces like that. So you will need around 5 and a bit of yarn for this blouse. Well, here is the end result, and I love the way this blouse looks. It looks fantastic with that combination of hairpin lace and net. Look how beautiful that color looks in there. So I hope you guys like it, and give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you are not already a subscriber. And if you make this piece and you want to send me some picture, you can do it through my Facebook page, Ruby Stedman, or you can find me in my Instagram, Ruby Stedman Crochet. And please share my video with friends and family. That way you guys help me grow here in my YouTube channel. I wish you have a beautiful day. Bye.